Hello friends, welcome to WAC. I'd like to thank Mr. Mahendra Damle and Abhijit Tamane for agreeing to come and have a chat with us. I call it chat because I don't want, a talk that becomes reading a art document or thesis like thing. No, we don't want that. So this is more like a friendly talk on art, a discussion through which some good outcome, we are expecting that. So thank you so much. So I would like to start the conversation with Mr. Damle. So sir, most of the artists, in art studios we sit and discuss sometimes, right? So mostly the topic revolves around the idea of, okay, समकालीन कला काय आहे, काय असायला पाहिजे वगैरे. Then sometimes the reference of Guernica comes in, right? Yeah. तर त्यावेळची जी कला होती, पिकासोनी त्यांनी आपल्या काळात जे होतं ते त्यांनी पेंट केलं, वॅन गॉगनी पण तेच केलं. मग आपल्याला प्रत्यक्ष जाणवतं की तसं आपल्या बाबतीत बरेचदा नाही होत. खूप पर्सेंटेज वाईज जर आपण बघितलं तर सिनारिओ खूप वेगळा दिसतो. म्हणजे असं म्हणता येईल की किती वाटतं, 5%, 10% जे आर्टिस्ट आजच्या टुडे रियालिटीज बद्दल बोलतात.
काय मला वाटतं की मराठीत बोलू की इंग्रजीत?
Don't follow Marathi.
English and I think
You don't follow Marathi.
ओके. मी मराठीत आणि इंग्लिशमध्ये सांगतो. सो व्हॉट हॅपन्स इज दॅट see, I feel this is a question which we have to decide how much we should trouble ourselves with. Okay, how much I should ask this question to myself every day and get troubled that am I painting or am I responding to my reality which is around me. So keeping means that can be one way to look at it, but I feel it is a fundamental question that which can be viewed in a different way, or which can be, the question can be rephrased, that even when suppose we are looking at images of Gaza, why do we respond or why do we recollect only Guernica? Why we do not recollect any image which is created in our art, say in the last 60-70 years or something like that. So my question is slightly different. Means I ask question slightly differently. The same question that on a larger scale. Suppose if we take art from 1945 onward till today, that how many images are there which correspond to what an individual experiences and what a collective experiences. Of course, the definition of what individual and what collective is will vary, but I feel those are the peripheries which are not defined in our kind of culture as such. I am talking about visual culture. So what is the individual sphere, what is a social sphere, and what is a human sphere in reference to our society or in a reference to our art practice is not defined. We assume many things, and I think therefore these kind of questions come across, or the situations come across where we get these kind of questions that what am I painting, what am I doing, what is the meaning of it, in a way. So, but I think Abhijit also can say something.
Maybe quantitatively I have seen much. I see any exhibition, any and every exhibition. Percentage wise, I can't pinpoint, but hardly 10 to less than 10% is at least responding to something. All other art is either market friendly or maybe extension of academic practices. Of course, it is a meaningful extension, but just another extension of academic practices. Creative पेंटिंग शिकले आणि मग पुढे काहीतरी करायला लागले असं. सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, I mean, I starkly remember Mahendra's answers during a similar seminar on Barve, Prabhakar Barve. It was dedicated to Prabhakar Barve, and I don't know if art history counts Prabhakar Barve as a contemporary artist in the Western sense. But Mahendra pinpointed his middle class existence, his middle class being, his middle class surroundings, and his ways to respond to his surroundings. That was that brought Barve into the contemporary realm, so to say. And I mean, not from without, but from within. And of course, I mean, there are other ways which are prominent ways to look at to define what is contemporary, which is looking from without, which is looking from like Gaza or world at large, the human sphere, so to say, which then invariably come to social political questions. And like the artist as citizen, the artist as a social being, so to say. Now, this I mean, this kind of an identity of an artist is, I mean, it takes time maybe to define, or we don't have an established norm to say that artist is a social being. I mean, he has to come to terms with it, and everybody has to kind of negotiate with whether I am individual as an artist, my studio practice, my different way, my different approach to the way I paint. It has to be different. It has to be individual and everything. Whereas I talk of the world in a communicative kind of way, or I talk of the world which appeals to me. माझी भूमिका मी मांडतो आहे जगाबद्दलची, हे पण महत्वाचं असतं. ते तिथपर्यंत बरेच जण जात नाहीत. माझी भूमिका मी मांडतो आहे जगाबद्दलची, या पॉइंट पर्यंत बरेच जण जात नाहीत. आणि फॉर मेनी आर्टिस्ट द सराउंडिंग और द फील्ड, art field for them is market driven. I mean, and it has to be market driven, no doubt. I mean, I don't have any complaints about the market, But then there are a number of Buddhas, then there were Rajasthani ladies in the past, and many other things. आता म्हणजे मध्ये मध्यंतरी वाडे होते, दरवाजे होते वगैरे. तुम्हाला सगळ्यांना माहिती आहे म्हणजे मी काय म्हणतो ते. I'm talking bad things about art.
I understood Ganesha's.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have all sorts of image making. Now, like you made a mention of Prabhakar Barve's work, right? I would like to mention Christian Khanna's band wala work. See, when it comes to contemporary art practice, what becomes contemporary and when, right? We had a conference in 1999-2000 at Moile Parikh Center on modernism and its relevance in Indian art. तर याच्यावर 5-7 दिवस ते
That was quite old.
Yeah.
21 years back.
Yeah, and then Ghulam Mohammed was there. They spoke on art. Then the scenario was changing from formalistic purist abstraction school, Mumbai school, to figuration and socio-political art. It was evolving slowly, right? तर तिथे हे जे कंटेक्स्ट आहेत की समकालीन काय आहे, or what exactly we should call, or like about today's topic. I had no topic actually till yesterday, and professor asked me what is the topic. So I said let's keep it open and something relevant to our practices. So I said ki theek hai. So what does contemporary art mean to us? तर आपल्याला समकालीन कला आपण कसं बघतोय, बरोबर आहे, आणि त्याला आपण किती महत्त्व देतोय. कारण आपल्याला बघायला मिळतं आता हे आर्ट एक्सपो आहे, किंवा मग आपण चला आर्ट एक्सपो इज अ कमर्शियल वेंचर. इट इज. Gallery system is a commercial venture. So-called prestigious galleries, they tend to amanya karaya, but that's the truth, and
You can extend it to museums even.
But like it really baffles me, disturbs me when I think of like we having just 2 museums in Bombay or 3 museums in Bombay, 2 museums in Delhi. But we don't have that culture. How, on what scale are we celebrating art? Right? We should have more museums, more art centers, and accessibility is one of the factor. There is no access. That's the truth. They have a lobby, 10 galleries, their own artists, their own shows. This is the truth. And what we artists need to do is, we like how 10 galleries can come together, 10 artists can also come together. That's how art initiatives are formed, art collectives are formed. So this starts happening actually. That becomes the need of the hour, right? But then we have this, again, back to the question, contemporary. How much is it happening? About today, what we call today art. Where is today art? These are the questions that we are trying to raise.
I would make it more specific. Say a collective like Turya, and the idea of contemporaneity. How would you juxtapose these two? And because there are collectives which are not necessarily conforming to the idea of what is contemporary. I mean, they don't have to care, first of all. I mean, but then the set narratives do care sometimes.
So I feel, see, there are so many complexities that first of all, most of the problems get created for artists because they go to art school. And I'm not saying that they should not go to art school, but the challenge is that art schools do not provide the education which will help you to understand that, okay, this is a skill set or a toolkit we are learning, and what we need to do with toolkit is our own thing. So why that does not happen? Because since for I think last 150 years or so, Indian artists have a habit of identifying something what they want to do from somewhere else. Means possibly what is happening in Europe or America or somewhere else. So if you look at generation after generation, we first got influenced by German expressionism, then abstract expressionism, then Dada, then pop, then installation, and then video art, and then so many things. So we somewhere do not accept and realize that that we are not creating our own sort of vocabulary and such. We are in a way adopting it. And the wonderful thing, what happens with the theory is that theory keeps on providing you newer, terminologies and philosophies where you can appropriate your practice in a way. So the beauty is that I feel, imagine, I always think like this, suppose the challenges which are there for a dancer or a singer, they are not there for the visual artist. The visual artists have different challenges. But the performative nature of their art always makes them, work hard in a different way, where they have to perform and they have to accept the reality that, okay, performance was good or not, or even accept what they are. That might be their knowledge of music is good, but their voice is not that good, stuff like that. So that doesn't happen with visual art practice, because we have so many, unfortunately, so many kind of sayings and so many, people will say, people will not say, I have not developed the ability about talking about art or, analyzing my thought process and talking about my art. They will say that, oh, art should talk about itself. Artist should not talk. What that useless kind of, ideology is this? So I feel there are so many complexities because of that, where we do not have a rigorous, honest art practice. We have, I feel, means if I think about an image, I think about an image where a growing up child and parent is trying to infuse everything in that child, because they feel that if they do that, everything will be good. So artists are under tremendous pressure where they want to develop their own process. They want to at the same time establish themselves in the contemporary art world, so-called, or sell art as well, and things like that, and which makes it very, very, a pressured situation where, at least it takes 10 years of sincere thought process work to arrive at something and produce some work, but you do not get that kind of time now. You have to immediately become very successful, immediately you have to produce something new, immediately you have to do 100 shows, or not 100 possibly, but 5 shows or 10 shows. So it is very difficult to resist that pressure, and actually work. So I feel because of that, there are so many people who believe in so many things, and keep living. Artists are not different from that. They are also doing that. They are like common citizens, and nobody asks them the question.
Yeah.
So, according to me, there are so many realities which are coming up now because the field is expanding. So many galleries are there and things like that. Nobody realizes that you are doing one kind of a practice and you are expecting everything about life to be achieved from that, and nobody talks about it, accepts it. So I feel clarity about these kind of aspects about so-called art practice. I feel these are the elements of art practice where you are doing a practice and a living, and then you are also responding to individual questions and social questions and larger questions, and trying to see that does it solve or does it provide answers to according from the practice which you are doing. I don't think that. So I feel it is more or less like raising a question, or if I get a question, I need to immediately have some smart answer. So many a times I feel contemporary art becomes like a smart activity rather than a meaningful activity. Means how many things I remember, suppose, of what I have seen in last 25 years. If I ask myself that question, means suppose, then the answer will be difficult. So, but I think we should continue discussing about this.
Coming back to he mentioned collectives of artists. Sanjeev himself comes from a very loose kind of collective. I mean, मी आरोप करतोय आता तुझ्यावरती एक प्रकारे की तुमची साधारण पिढी, गिरीश दहिवले, संजीव सोनपिंपरे, आनंद जोशी, रियाज कोमू बराच नंतरचा, पण हे सगळे जितीश कलाट खूप नंतरचा, रीना सैनी, शिल्पा गुप्ता, ही सगळी मुंबईतून 90s मध्ये निघालेली महत्वाची नावं होती. These were names of artists these were artists that have a name now, and I mean they were all well aware of what art is. I mean, while in college, they studied in JJ. They all studied in JJ, and despite their academic education, they knew something else. You tended to know something else. You all had a common thing. You read well. You also sketched well. Like most of them have had a practice of doing something, thinking out something, trying out something while in college. And when you were out of the academy, 90s, the fruits of globalization, so-called, were just becoming ripe. The gallery system was not so well, so bitterly established as it is now. A gallery like Lakire in Parle could attract people, could be a public place, which was fun. And all this culminated into what you people defined as contemporary art in Mumbai. And it was about people, it was about what we see on the limited media in the 97 and all. It was about the local train journeys, what you see on the local train journeys. It was about human relations also, but in a very specific urban way. All this was like art historically. We can talk about that period, which you didn't sit in a meeting and discuss, but you came about it and like it happened. So how, like, what are your takeaways from kind of that lived experience? I mean, how, and I'll juxtapose this onto what he is doing now. Sanjeev is also active in the secular art movement and what I have publicly called Dalit art. And his practice has changed, and his company has, I mean, his friends have changed maybe, and I mean, he has got new friends and things. So, it is always something that you do, something that one does very thoughtfully, and then somebody else after a while says, "Oh, it was contemporary that time." So, I mean, would you first of all agree with my observations? If yes, how can you expand on that?
See, now I differ actually in the way that if you remember my cash cow show, right? And those times were the boom times. We have witnessed the horizon line changing, right? Skyscrapers just started coming, and my solo show comes, and I was talking about the malls, the elevators, and how our existence, our experiences, how we actually get elevated from inside. So I was trying to talk about that, but then it was also about when I said cash cow. So we were kind of milking the city to the extreme, right? I was actually talking about the problem of the rupee. Even that time. So it is just that I'm underlining it with a highlighter now. I was doing the same. If you see, after I finished my academics, my journey started that way. And what I'm doing today was never separate from what I am. Right? Now I am just, what I am doing is I am using a highlighter and saying this is this.
I said you have different friends now.
Yeah,
I didn't say your practice has changed.
Yeah. And then about contemporary, right? Now even let's also talk about what is mainstream. Now on the global scenario, it is the black art that is mainstream. Okay, and slowly in coming 20 years, it will be the Dalit art, so-called Dalit art. Okay, I'm not using the word Dalit art. I use Ambedkarite art. I don't use the word because I understand it in a very specific way. But the term can be used. There is no harm in using the word Dalit art from there. It is going to take over everything. Because that is what we have realized, that this is about us. When it comes to Ambedkarite, the whole it's about our rights, constitutional. It starts with our constitutional rights, about the freedom of speech, these are the things that Ambedkarite art deals with. If I snatch that from you, would you like it? Then why are you rejecting it? So, these are the questions that we are asking. You don't like the word Ambedkarite, okay. You don't like to use the word Dalit. Okay, what if the constitution just removes your right to speech? You would like? You said no. Then what is your problem? Right? So, and it is not, see, people think that this is something separate from our lives. It is not. It is not. It is not religious. It is about our everyday. Like, see, we had mills. Today they are defunct, right? The workers. We recently encountered the workers going back to their hometown, right? Then comes COVID. So we contemporary artists are talking about the common man's life throughout. Isn't that contemporary? These are the everyday experiences that we are talking about. So it is, see, like I mentioned about postmodernism and its relevance. Okay. Now, what distinguished between the earlier practice and then talking about art in the post-colonial period? That was much discussed, right? Now, this whole practice, you mentioned some names from my, Jitish Kalat and Reena, they came later. Then Anand, he was my 1 year junior. Then Bose, he did a museum. And so we have a history. See, Mahendra sir says, see, we have examples. Sometimes we use example just to convey. It is not like we are very, stubborn on using only Western. But then this was also discussed about historicity, the importance of historicity. But that was discussed on a global scale. And then, when we come from the ideas of purist modernism and our progression to postmodernism and today art. Okay, so what is the difference? That was discussed. And in my own research, what I found was the failure of transcendental arts, the ideas of universalism. Because America thinks they are the superpower and they will dictate the whole world, that art should be like this or like that. But then people from specific regions, they start talking about their local specific realities. That is the triggering, that is the starting point where they show, no, America, sit for a minute and listen to us. We are talking about our lives. We are talking about our subjectivity and specificity. That is where the scenario changes. And postmodernism, that's the beginning of postmodernism. There are many definitions of postmodernism. I'm just trying to distinguish how they are different. Okay, and then what today there are many methods that today artists are employing. But my important concern was not about defining what is contemporary. My fundamental question is, like Abhijit said, the importance of it and the truthfulness about it. There was a point when I tried to search, but I did not get that quote because I read it in one of the books 20 years back. And the statement was, making art is not enough. That is where artists started performing, out of the gallery space. So this historicity is very, very important. No question?
Yeah, but so I always feel that means though all these things we are doing or these practices there, I always feel that do we need some other model to find out what I need to do. Okay. Because if we refer that black art is the most important thing right now, I am referring to that. Okay. I feel so many things happened, suppose, about mill workers. What is the reflection of it in a visual culture? Okay. And another thing I feel is that means according to me, when I look at so many urban realities being responded to, I feel that there is no overview about what happens when urban responses get generated. Okay, because many a times I feel that though urban life scenario generate variety of imagery, urban life also consumes those imagery, and therefore the life of that image and the impact it generates is very fragile.
No.
No. I'm not talking about. You encounter so many artists who are responding to urban realities. Okay. And in a actual factual life, you have a dilemma about being in a city, or you don't want to being in a city, or you want to go in a non-urban space and things like that. So you are living in an urban life, you are responding. So according to me, the images are, they get generated because when we are trying to think about the urban realities and the challenges it creates, that is the birthplace of those images. And many a times, therefore, they present actually the complex and self-defeating kind of realities which are there. And therefore, I feel that urban life consumes all those images because that is what it is made of or made for on one level. So, do I want to engage with those images? Because they are going to be like a TV episode. They will come today and they will go tomorrow. Or even faster, like a scroll of Instagram, things like that. So therefore, I feel questions are, or the challenges are on a different level, more complex. That is the imagery which is getting generated, getting a mature life or not. And I'm saying on a theoretical level, but based on the observations which you encounter all the time.
While trying to understand and imbibe what you say, I starkly remembered Baroda paintings. On many trips of mine to Baroda, me looking at paintings which have nails coming out from the ground, which is typically Baroda. Nails coming out from the ground. I used to ask different questions about like या काय म्हणजे अडचणी वाटेवर काटे वगैरे असं आहे का. नंतर मी म्हणालो की हे बरोडा वाढतोय त्या बिल्डिंग अशा स्प्राउट होतात म्हणून आहे का. आणि म्हणजे it was as an image it was very strong, but it was so often repeated that it just became currency. वो जमीन में से खिला आया तो बरोड़ा, ऐसा कुछ हो गया. So I mean it became that kind of crude. It was a very strong, it is a very strong image when maybe Nataraj Sharma uses it.
Yeah.
And then Nataraj Sharma completely abandoned it. He went on to build. He went on to buildings and urbanscapes, kind of, which again have a different quality. I mean, you can still start to remember it.
Yeah.
It has a transcendental quality. I mean, cut to Ghulam Sheikh's older paintings, where there is a city and a red kind of road and one or two dogs or something. And and the Baroda image of that imagined city is the same, which is intimidating, frightening, which is not your Mahanagar, which is not your metropolis, but a growing city, just a growing city. I mean, looking back, they have kind of succeeded in making their own image of the city. Is it? Or your point is something different?
My point is that, see, if you look at examples of like a Japanese anime, okay, there is a culture of consuming visuals in a different way for ages. It was a print initially, then a print newspaper, magazine, then comic book, now anime, now games, and so many aspects. So what happens is that there is a kind of a platform created at various levels in the form of habits to where things will be published, where they will be watched, and etc. etc. So when that platform is created, then somebody comes and says that now I'm doing something different. I feel we do not have that platform first of all. Okay. Our platform is what? Galleries and museums. Okay. So therefore there is no consumption at all. At all in a sense, very limited, gated kind of a consumption. Okay. Or island kind of a consumption. So what happens is that the experience where an artist or a critic or a common connoisseur, they do not get an experience that they saw something, they felt and experienced something, and it stayed with them for a longer time. Even though their surrounding reality changed, what they carried always had either a meaning or that meaning changed, and still it was relevant. Okay. So I feel urban responses to urban reality is a very common phenomenon because there is so much of urbanization happening. So if we are responding to urban realities, it is not something out of the world we are doing. And then if you look at what kind of images which are there, then they suggest a kind of collage is an older world and montage is possibly a modern world, and there is no, I don't know the third level word beyond montage that which I can use, saying that the cross-cultural kind of realities which are there. So according to me, if you look at that, then you will realize, then the next question the image generates is that how much time it is going to stay. Possibly for a different generation that answer will be different. So I feel that so one aspect is of platform which is missing, and therefore there is no consumption, and therefore there are so many aspects which are not addressed. For example, like generally art groups or communities will talk about presenting their perspective of life or a community, or gaining a kind of exchange level of power or etc. etc. But there are other issues that what am I looking at, means what my intentions are. Am I trying to create something which will have a capacity to provide me multiple perspectives over the period of time, or I am trying to create a perspective which will give me answer today. And I feel many a times our struggle is to find the answer today. Nobody says, unfortunately in Indian art, that nobody reviews, for example, Amruta Shergill. Means I am going too back. But nobody says why she is still glorified. Okay. Means suppose if I say that abstract painting is not relevant anymore, I should also say that Amruta Shergill is not relevant anymore. I should say so many things are not relevant anymore. Then only I will be able to say that now this is relevant. Our challenge is that we say even she is relevant, Gaitonde also is relevant, and even what Desai is doing is also relevant. How that is possible? Okay. So therefore a platform in a sense, therefore a plane is actually required, where what is relevant, how it is consumed, why it has to be consumed, what is what value it carries for me. If that starts getting not defined as such, but if it exists, then things will be different. So artists do not talk about, for example, disillusionment. That I was practicing I was influenced by David Hockney, and then I was influenced by Bhupen Kakkar, and now I am influenced by something else. They do not talk about it. So, and nobody even asks the question to them. So, I feel, how come, means, when we talk about film stars, writers, singers, we will talk about failures, we will talk about ups and downs. Nobody, why a visual artist is always successful? Why they do not talk about that? Oh, I did think for so many years in that way, and that was a dead end, and therefore I started thinking in a different way. Things like that. So I feel there are so many gaps to be filled, which are not very openly, filled in a practice as such. So if a practice is very open and honest, it will automatically become relevant. We will know that, okay, whatever I am doing, the value of it is so much, and this is what it is, but it is not still solving many other issues which are posed. So, and it will also limit, for example, our peripheries. I still feel that, I need to see what is happening in Europe is important. Why? It's suppose. Because Miyazaki doesn't say that. He says, this is what I want to do for the next 5 years, and this is the film I am going to make. I don't know what the world is going to say. So I feel we are very diplomatic and very nice to each other, and therefore these loopholes are never filled. And so according to me, most of the theoretical questions which are there are not relevant because they do not apply to us. To be frank,
we are quite far from when we Katadi
Bachau
Bachau.
Exactly, we are not even facing that question. Why I should ask that question to myself? So my response is that, like when you talked about 90s and the practice which changed, we do not talk about what happened after 2007. Because then if you are going to say that something very important happened after 90s till 2007, we should also say that why it changed after 2007. Means we are not saying that what happened between 90s and 2007 is not relevant anymore. It is still relevant. But something happened when the American market crashed. So, and that discussion cannot be only the financial implications of it. It changes so many aspects. Like the way we say that after 90s, artists got money, artists got studio space. So if they want to imagine that, oh, I want to create 14-feet sculpture, they have that facility, which was not earlier there. Which is a great positive about, the gallery systems and everything. So if we are saying good things, then we should also say, so I feel these things are required. Because then we will be able to have the pulse when somebody says that I am creating an Ambedkarite perspective art. We will understand what they are saying. Or rather we will not label it that, oh, you are doing Ambedkarite art. Because then it will become a part of a pulse which is there.
I'll just I'd like to mention one experience. You mentioned about why we don't talk about art after 2006-07, right? Recent one. From a practicing artist point of view. March ending, okay? Okay. Now, COVID period. Nobody was bothered whether the artists are living or dead. March period comes, phone calls आना शुरू कि आप जिंदा हो, okay, send me your new work portfolios. Nobody discusses this, but I write about it, and I'm going to write everything about it. It's very painful for artists. They come exactly when they want. They are not bothered whether you are dead or they are not bothered.
Actually, they're not bothered after you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's open questions from your side. We can have that too. We can take some questions here.
Complete this and then.
Okay. So this phenomena is very, very painful. See, every artist, if you are organized, you have your portfolios ready, right? You have your documentation, everything in order. Work from this show, that period, every work with their title, size and everything is done. We are ready with that. But when something like this happens, and this is not the first time happened, this happened every time. This has happened every time. They come back exactly when they want. Now when I say they, I'm talking about the art world, the art system, the gallery system, the people who want to invest in art, they come back. Yeah, that is and then like 2006-07, okay, markets crash, some galleries shut down, cannot afford in Colaba, then they will again open somewhere, then again come back to Colaba, okay, the markets are fine, then this keep on happening, that is fine. I saw one video from the COVID times and how abroad galleries were shutting down, and there was a kind of discussion, okay, and the idea of work from home. Then, do we really need physical gallery space? These were the questions being discussed, okay. Now okay, this is one thing. Another thing that needs to be discussed also is, it's not what somebody tells you or you decide on a topic and start working. No, it is not that. It is your own inner questions that you feel the urgency to share with the world. That should be the practice, and that is what many of the artists do. But some artists, they make, they like decide on a subject and they keep on doing that because it is kind of demand and supply kind of thing also. That is a totally different thing. But when एक आर्टिस्ट का मैंने पूछा कि please send me a few words about your work. So koi bhi gallery, when we approach a gallery, we have this, right, a small short bio with about work section. So this artist sends me a poem. So I had to look at the work and make that about work for the artist, so that I can use it for a curated. So most artists don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to articulate about their own works. Why? The question is why? Because we don't have that system here. We learned it from outside. You know?
Not having that system is not an excuse. I mean, not having a system was the atrocity from the past, at best. I mean, we have to come to terms with it. I mean, art system in India, if it were so, it was highly sponsored by the kind of Samanti Saranjami
Capitalist
Indian brand of capitalism, and not even capitalism. I mean, ती जी शोषण व्यवस्था होती भारतात ती आणि भारतीय चित्रकला यांचं म्हणजे भारतीय इंडिव्हिज्युअल आर्टिस्टांची सेवा म्हणून घेतली जाणारी चित्रकला याचं नातं ब्रिटिश येण्या अगोदरच्या काळात होतं हे आपल्याला दाखवता येतं. म्हणजे विशेषतः लघुचित्रकारांच्या काळात तर होतच होतं आणि ते अक्षरशः शोषणाधारित नातं होतं. Sorry, I mean, there was an exploitative relation. And I mean, if you go to the golden eras of Indian art, that is a different story. But I mean, I still feel that lack of visual culture in Indian art, it's something like mobile culture in our surroundings today. I mean, before we had proper phones, landlines in every home, we had mobiles. And then पोरांना खेळायला पण मोबाईल दिला and things. So it is like, I mean, we were maybe not ripe for the gallery system that we have to.
Co-artist, I mean, all of you know him, but I will take that now. So, what was the suggestion? The suggestion was, थोड़ा cunning होना पड़ेगा.
क्या होना पड़ेगा?
Cunning.
हाँ.
अच्छा, I want some questions.